Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm your narrator Giles with a J and we're on Season 22, Family Annihilators Part 2. I already did a season of Family Annihilators years ago and you can check the description for a link to a playlist of all of those videos. Otherwise, on with the show. When Manling Williams ran from her home screaming for help, neighbors came to her aid and called 911. When authorities arrived on the scene, they found Manling's husband and children inside the home dead, and the distraught woman claimed she had just come home and found them that way. It didn't take investigators long to realize that nothing Manling was telling them was true. This is Monsters. Manling Seng was born in 1979 in Southern California to parents of Chinese descent. The specifics of her childhood aren't well documented, but it's known that she was physically abused growing up. It's been reported that she was the result of an unwanted pregnancy, and when she was determined to have a learning disability, that compounded her parents' resentment of her. They would openly, verbally, and physically abuse her in front of others, which resulted in social services becoming involved. Of course, the case didn't seem to go anywhere, and eventually it was closed. After high school, Manling started working at a local Subway restaurant where she met a coworker named Neil Williams. Neil was born on May 19, 1980, and also grew up in Southern California. His family said that he was friendly and well-liked. He liked a wide variety of topics and could spend hours in thoughtful conversation with people. He started dating Manling, and Neil told his mother that he enjoyed the conversations they had. It wasn't long before Manling was pregnant, and their first son, Devon, was born in July of 2000. Having a child out of wedlock only added to the strain on her relationship with her parents. They kicked her out of the house, and Manling spent time living with either a friend or with Neil's mother. Neil and Manling eventually got married at the courthouse, but ended up having a ceremony at a Taiwanese church soon after. Neil started working in sales, and Manling was a server at a Marie Callender's restaurant. They moved into a condo in Rowling Heights, just east of Los Angeles. Their second son, Ian, was born in the fall of 2003, and to everyone on the outside, they seemed like a happy family. Of course, outside appearances can be deceiving. Manling wasn't really happy in the relationship, and she used the social networking site MySpace to reconnect with a man she had dated in high school named John Gregory. They began an affair, with them going away for a weekend together, but it seemed that John had reservations about being with a married woman. He told her that she needed to get a divorce if she wanted to be with him, but it seemed that Manling wasn't willing to live with the stigma of divorce. It seems like in the 21st century, divorce is not something that's very frowned upon, but there are still people who believe it's bad enough to justify an alternative, even if that alternative is murder. It's believed that Manling started planning the murder in June of 2007 because she started telling friends that she was having dreams that Neil smothered their children and then killed himself. Obviously, her friends were horrified by such a nightmare, but they surely didn't think that it was some sort of prophecy. On the morning of August 8, 2007, a man named James Brown, no, not that James Brown, called 911 to report an incident. He said he had been awakened by a neighbor screaming, and when he went to help, she said she had found her husband dead. Deputies from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department arrived on the scene, where they found Neil Williams on the floor of the condo with multiple stab and slash wounds. In one bedroom, they found both Devon and Ian dead as well. Authorities placed Manling in the back of a patrol car, not as a suspect but as a witness being questioned about what had happened. Manling explained that she had gone out to the grocery store, and when she arrived back home, she found her husband dead. The deputy who first interviewed her noted that Manling was wearing boxer shorts, a t-shirt, and no shoes, something that they thought was odd if the woman had just gone out to the store. It's also not noted anywhere if groceries were found on the scene. Her neighbors also reported that they hadn't seen her leave immediately before finding the bodies. She later told a detective that she had gone out to a gas station where she got gas, a pack of cigarettes, and a Red Bull. There's another account where she supposedly told an investigator that she and Neil got into a fight and she went out for an all-night drive. The medical examiner determined that Neil had suffered 97 stab and slash wounds. His hands were mangled from defending himself from the attack. The tips of 2 of his fingers had been severed. One of the stab wounds went through his heart, which was what killed him. Both boys had been smothered. Investigators did not believe Manling, and when they found Neil's blood on her pack of cigarettes, they arrested her on suspicion of murder. Her stories pretty quickly fell apart and she confessed to killing her family. She said that evening the family ordered pizza and watched television. When everyone else was asleep, Manling snuck into her son's room and first smothered 3-year-old Ian with a pillow. She then climbed onto the top bunk and smothered 7-year-old Devon the same way. She did not immediately attack her husband, though. Computer records showed that she then got online and looked at what is reported as her boyfriend's MySpace page. It's possible that they were referring to John Gregory, but it was also later revealed that Manling had another affair with a coworker not long before the murders. She had told people she was going to Hawaii with a friend, but it turned out that she went with the coworker, and after the murders, Neil's mother found an undeveloped roll of film in the condo, which ended up being pictures of the two during that trip. After checking the MySpace page, Manling contacted some friends and they went out to eat at TGI Fridays. Her friends would later say that she seemed perfectly normal while they were together. Meanwhile, Neil was asleep in the condo with his 2 sons dead in their bunk bed. She told investigators during her confession that Neil was passed out drunk, but a toxicology report showed that he had a blood alcohol level of 0.02, which wouldn't be enough to cause unconsciousness. People who knew Neil all had good things to say about him. James Brown, the neighbor who called 911, said that Neil was really fun, like a big kid. Part of that personality came from a love of things that regularly get labeled as nerdy. Star Wars, Star Trek, Monty Python. He also collected swords, something that would ultimately come back to bite him. When Manling returned from hanging out with her friends, she picked up a very sharp 20-inch or 50-centimeter katana and began hitting Neil with it across his chest as he was asleep in bed. Neil obviously fought back, even getting out of bed and running down the hallway. Unfortunately, he wouldn't make it far before he fell to the floor and was fatally stabbed by his wife. It seemed it was at that point that Manling believed she would be able to pretend to stumble across her dead family and get away with the authorities believing that it had been a random homicide. Obviously, looking at the case now, it's hard to understand how she thought she would get away with the murders. But if criminals were smart, then they never get caught and I'd have nothing to talk about. I would only have unsolved cases to cover. Detectives said that Manling was arrogant during her confession and made jokes about the television show CSI. Her trial was pretty cut and dry. She had confessed and was easily found guilty of 3 counts of murder with special circumstances. That made her eligible for the death penalty. Her defense argued that the murders were a sudden act and not pre-planned, but that didn't seem to be the case. She not only killed her husband and children over a prolonged period, with a point in the middle where she went out with friends, but she also put on latex gloves before picking up the sword she used to kill her husband, showing that she very much did not snap and kill in a sudden moment of rage. She also mentioned the exact way the children would be killed to friends previously, claiming it was a dream, showing that she had thought about the murders long before she committed them. Then there was the fact that the medical examiner testified that it would have taken 5 to 10 minutes to smother one of the children to death. A very long time to consider your actions, and she didn't stop smothering Ian, but went on to spend another 5 to 10 minutes smothering Devon. The defense also claimed that her abusive upbringing caused her to be mentally unstable and murder her family in a state of extreme emotional and mental disturbance. They claimed that she was normally extremely loving to her family, but most people who knew them disagreed. People testified that she was rarely friendly and that she screamed and swore at her family all the time. Friends said she claimed she was unhappy with Neil and that she felt forced into marriage because she was pregnant. The jury was unable to come to a unanimous decision on sentencing, so the prosecutor went through the sentencing portion again with a new jury. Manling Williams was sentenced to death on January 8, 2012. During the sentencing, the judge called Manling's actions, quote, narcissistic, selfish, and adolescent. Manling is currently on death row at the Central California Women's Prison, and it's unlikely that she'll be executed. California rarely executes convicts who are on death row, but she definitely will never see the outside of a prison. Her desire to get rid of her family so she could start over with someone else was a selfish act, and she will fortunately never have the freedom she was willing to kill for. Unfortunately, she was able to carry out the first part of that plan for freedom, which saw her smother her own children and butcher her husband. Actions that could only be carried out by a true monster. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.